So we'll start with a discussion of water. So 2.5 billion people around the world lack access to clean drinking water or adequate sanitation. And as you may know, these are really not environmental problems. They're human health, safety, economic productivity issues instead. Now you may ask, well, how does this relate to the course? Well, one example, right, is the idea of green development, green building, etc., that leads to cleaner water, certainly within the building, but also responsible for the wastewater, and or could relate to new technologies, services developed to purify water that could be transferred to address this problem as well. Next, on electricity, roughly 1.2 billion people lack access to electricity around the world. So when the sun goes down, the lights are out, right? Not much ability for productive time / enjoyment, leisure, unless, of course, there are kerosene lamps indoors. But as you know, or we've discussed, those are not only a fire hazard, but also expensive and very unhealthy to be reading, writing, working, talking around. The relationship between this course and this problem here would be innovations such as micro or pico solar systems, often backed by venture capital investors. These are for-profit businesses which are bringing light to some fraction of these 1.2 billion people, but many, many more that need to be served, not just with those type of products, but with others in the renewable energy and green building sector. Similar topic here, energy, but for cooking. 2.7 billion people use biomass for cooking, so think wood or dried dung from animals. And this is linked to 3.5 million deaths per year from indoor air pollution. I'll also note that this disproportionately affects women in the family who are often doing the cooking indoors. And so not only do you have an environmental issue with the carbon and the particulate matter, you also have an equity issue, a gender issue here as well. So again, tying it to the course, the idea is, can entrepreneurship in renewable energy or green building lead to products that offer cleaner ways, cleaner and cheaper ways to cook indoors. Next, to focus on animals and habitat. So the world is on track to lose 68% of all wild animals by 2020. And then relative to 1970, we've already lost 58%. Now, that's a pretty depressing statistic. Part of our role here is to be stewards of natural resources and of other species on the planet, doing a pretty bad job so far. And again, to tie this to the course, I think, well, what are some of those reasons for this loss of wild animal populations? Part of it is a hunger for their habitat, right? For us to either develop new homes, new cities, etc., and or it's to extract the resources in the ground, on the ground, trees, etc., to produce something we use in our buildings. So, less throughput, minimizing virgin material, increasing the reuse of material, the use of recycled material is just one example of how this big problem could be addressed. Many other solutions required, of course, but that's one example. Here at the really invisible level, humans have created over 100,000 chemicals, and in our bodies, these can mix to create over 3 billion potential combinations. I'll note that, at least in the U.S., typically less than 1% of those are thoroughly studied for potential negative human and environmental impacts before they're released broadly into the market. That is the opposite of what is called the precautionary principle, which is more often used in countries in the EU as an example, in which case it is to thoroughly test the negative potential impacts of chemicals before they're released into various supply chains. There's a great article in National Geographic on this topic called Pollution Within. I would encourage you to take a look at if you want to be terrified perhaps of the different man-made chemicals probably lurking inside of your body right now. so yeah, think about that one for a second. Again, tying it to this course, just look around you, right? In your office, in your home, all the components of the building, primarily, and begin thinking about what is the origin for all of those subcomponents, right? And we frequently don't know the answer, partly because it's complex. The other part is that often companies don't want to communicate the details of what's in their products for business or proprietary kind of intellectual property related concerns, and that makes it difficult to track. But the point is, as we become more aware of these negative, or at least poorly understood chemicals, we could begin saying to ourselves or to our customers, look, we want to provide you a product for your next real estate project where we know we've screened all of the chemicals, all the components down to the chemical or compound level, and we know that based on XYZ trusted resource, that there are no negative environmental or human impacts. There are different quote-unquote red lists out there being created which track chemicals or compounds with known, or metals with known negative impacts. And the suggestion is you, product producer or building owner, developer, you should not have any red list chemicals in your product and or building. Finally, looking into the world's oceans, about 20% of the world's coral reefs are now dead. Only 45% are healthy, yet 25% of the world's fish live near them. So again, this is not a discussion really about snorkeling or scuba diving or fishing. It's not about recreation. Those are all important for personal reasons, for economic reasons, but this is also about maintaining important protein sources for hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people around the world. And again, tying it to the course, the greenhouse gas emissions from the building energy use or from our power generating facilities contribute to acidification. The ocean's waters becoming more acidic with more CO2 in the air, which further contributes to coral reefs bleaching or dying. Another example would be water pollution that is derived from air pollution, which again is linked oftentimes to the kind of energy produced and the quantity of energy consumed. There's some key conclusions from this lecture. First, the world is full of environmental, health, and social problems. These create opportunities for new businesses to solve them. Second, it is possible to do well and to do good at the same time in the same business. There's often no need to accept less or lower financial reward when pursuing a business or investment that also creates positive environmental or social outcomes. So this is a big, I think, misperception out there that these things cannot coexist, that is to say financial and environmental outcomes. No, look, certainly that can be the case. And at the extreme, there is no business solution. It is purely a charitable, nonprofit, or government solution required. But increasingly, there are many more opportunities where you can generate market rate return that is not a concessionary return, while also contributing to positive social or environmental outcomes. The last one, the mission aspect of businesses that solve problems like those in these slides can form a powerful vision that attracts and retains passionate and skilled team members. Finally, get out your pen and paper. Questions for you to think about. Which of these problems resonates the most with you, and is that feeling strong enough to inspire you to create a new business around it? Second, which environmental or social problems were not discussed in these slides, and is there a way that renewable energy or green building products, projects, or services could be a part of that solution? Finally, do you see any conflicts with trying to run a profitable business and also trying to make a positive environmental impact? If so, why do you think that? And then lastly, ask yourself that question again once you finish this course. Clearly, I hope your answer has changed. And if not, maybe take the course again or hop in the forum and let's do some Q&A. All right, we'll see you in the next video.